What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. Welcome back to the channel. I am waiverwirequeen. In today's episode, we are going to talk about some players you should sell high because their value is going to decrease and you want to maximize on what they have been doing so far statistically in fantasy football. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and your notifications are turned on because we have a lot of great content which will help you every week in fantasy football. Now, let's talk about these players you need to sell high. Coming in at number 3, we have Marquise Brown. That's right, Hollywood, with the Arizona Cardinals, and he has been playing extremely well so far, which we anticipated that with DeAndre Hopkins missing time due to suspension, and then Rondell Moore dealing with the hamstring injury. So we already knew that Brown was going to be targeted a whole lot, and he has been, and he has produced. When you think of Hollywood, you think of that deep threat down the field, and yes, he has been tremendous for your team. However, you need to keep in mind that at some point, Rondell Moore is going to return and DeAndre Hopkins is going to return, and that's going to take away targets from Marquise Brown. With those two guys back, and you have Ertz as well, you know that he's not going to produce like he has been producing statistically. Now, if you want to keep him, you can, because there's nothing wrong with having a valuable asset, but just know that his value is going to decrease because he won't be producing as much. So he is one of these players you sell high and get all you can get for him, because there may be someone who simply needs a wide receiver, but you are strong at the wide receiver position, and maybe you're weak at another position like running back or tight end, and you're looking for a player who can actually help your team out. And Marquise Brown may be the guy who can help you acquire a better asset. Week 3 was simply amazing. He was excellent. It was just amazing. 14 receptions, 140 yards. It's not going to do that anymore this season, in my opinion. Once Hopkins and Moore get back, he may have those long, deep ball, 40-yard touchdowns here and there, but it may end up being more hit or miss with Brown once Moore and Hopkins are able to return to the Cardinals. Rondell Moore, we didn't expect him to be out and not play a game yet this season due to injury. We already knew what we were getting with Hopkins, but now this is your time and your chance to use your asset and acquire better assets, which will make you a better overall team in fantasy football. So hop on it. Coming in at number 2, we have Darrell Henderson, running back with the Rams. His value, in my opinion, is already going down. Started off the season as the RB1 for the Rams, which wasn't saying much, because in my mind, this backfield is a hot mess. To me, it's going to be more of the hot hand, cold hand. If you want to keep him on your bench, you can. If you want to do the right thing, go on and reach out to whoever has Cam Akers. Let them deal with the problem of, is it going to be Cam this week? Is it going to be Henderson this week? If you have watched closely, his snap percentage has gone down since week 1. Week 1, he was on the football field a whole lot, and he still was inefficient, but it was against the Bills defense, which has been great this season. So wasn't expecting him to do much with that, but again, his carries are going down, his on-field usage rate and his snap percentage have gone down as well. So that is something you have to be concerned with. His value is already decreasing, and he may just be a player who ends up on your bench and you have nothing to do. You won't be able to do anything with him. So I'm saying look at the Cam Akers manager, and they may be interested in acquiring him in the event that something occurs, because there are some managers who invested heavily into Cam Akers thinking he was going to be the guy. They got nervous. He had a good game week 3. However, it's going to be the back and forth, and they're not going to trade you Cam. So you got a better chance of acquiring some type of asset for Darrell Henderson instead of trying to acquire Cam, because they're probably going to want you to give up more than what he is truly worth in fantasy. So if you can get Henderson up off your squad, do it ASAP. Like the alarm has sounded, get him off your team and trade him elsewhere. Okay. 27 rush attempts on the season, 111 yards. He's averaging what, 4.11 yards per carry, which isn't bad. One touchdown, 5 receptions, and 26 yards on the season. Eh, not great. Okay. Just simply not great. And when I tell you again that his snap percentage, it has gone down every week. It simply has. And you don't want to, you don't want a player on your team who's declining. They're not even on the field as much. It's going down every week. They're on a decline, and you want them off of your roster. Week 3, only 4 rush attempts. That's not going to cut it. So try to get something for him, or you may end up in a situations where you may have to release him. Try to see if you can get something for him. And my top sell high, and I mean right now, like right now, after you finish watching this episode, sell high on Antonio Gibson. Okay, we already knew going into the season he was not going to be the starting running back, anyways, for the Commanders. Unfortunate incident happened with Brian Robinson, and so Antonio Gibson had to slide in to be the starter. Ryan Robinson is already getting healthy, running routes, and maybe eligible to return week 5, right? I do expect Antonio Gibson to be in the mix, but it's not going to be as much as he is in the mix right now for the Commanders. Brian Robinson was going to be the starter. You don't lose your job typically for injuries or non-football injuries. So I'm expecting Brian Robinson to come in there and be more efficient and effective. Antonio Gibson had one really great game, and then week 3 just wasn't great at all for any Commander. So if you can sell high, do so and get something back. You may want to reach out and call the Brian Robinson owner and see if you can unload Gibson to Brian Robinson. His greatest value was after week 1. But again, this doesn't even mean that Brian Robinson is going to be ready to return week 5 or week 6. We don't know, but you want to maximize on Antonio Gibson's trade value right now and sell high, because his statistically he will decline on the season so far. 40 rush attempts, 124 yards. He's only averaging 3.1 yards per carry, which is disgusting, and he has 2 touchdowns. The biggest issue was fumbles. He's been all right there, which is good. That's what we want to see, and that was part of the reason why he was losing his job. Receiving wise, 13 targets, 10 receptions, and 87 yards. Kind of so for the guy who's the clear cut number 1 running back right now for the Commanders. Again, week 1 was great, and the last 2 weeks have been kind of like eh. Brian Robinson ready yet? But again, we don't know when Brian Robinson is going to return, but don't get caught with Brian Robinson's activated and he is the lead guy, and now you have Gibson and his value has dropped tremendously. So if you can move on from Gibson, then you know what you have to do. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and your notifications are turned on. We have a lot of great content which will help you prepare every week. Tune in on Friday. We have our start sits episodes. We're going to talk about players who we recommend you starting because we just love their matchups, and players we recommend sitting because they haven't played well this season and their matchups are unfavorable. And keep in mind with the start sits, right now, the way the season has been going, it's hard as hell to predict it, but we're going to do our best to make sure that you have the right information to prepare for week 4. I'll see you guys on Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast.